it was shocking. It was really scary. And then after 3 days, it was like kind of funny because he was like texting in the wolf costume and like getting a cappuccino in the wolf costume and like asking where his mark is in the wolf costume, had like straws up his nose for the breathing or makeup. I don't know. But then it got kind of funny. But but the first like moment I saw it, I was like, this is terrifying.
Con Gaby Cam y Javier Ibarreche.
Chris, welcome to Estreno. Congratulations on bringing your unique touch to this classic monster with this different story. It's so
Thanks.
exciting, and it's something that we didn't knew we were going to watch. So that's amazing.
Sure, thank you, Riva. That's very nice. Thanks.
Charlotte is a really interesting character. She starts out quite a distant mother, but the terrifying events that we see in Wolfman force her to become this source of strength for her family. You know, as Blake transforms, Charlotte does too. So how did you portray that shift, especially as she connects with her daughter and discovers inner strengths that she didn't knew she had?
I think she sometimes, you know, extreme circumstances either bring the best or the worst out of people. And, you know, one of the things when I was prepping this, I was talking to a lot of working mothers, and I was asking them a lot of questions of fears of theirs and insecurity in a way, and feeling like they were not here and they weren't there, and so I was just like kind of picking their brain, and yeah. But in terms of once they do go to the woods, you know, my North Star was, you know, I kind of prepped almost the 7 stages of grief during this, and yeah, and then having like a husband who it felt like had like a disease or an illness, and then I'm slowly losing him and grieving while he's still alive.
I wanted to ask you about how you've mentioned that Wolfman is this grounded take on the werewolf myth. And I wanted to ask you, what does that mean to you, and how did you strive to achieve that, to balance between horror and realism in this film?
There's been a lot of werewolf movies, so immediately my first thought was, what am I going to do that's different? What can I do that's unique? And when I thought about the werewolf story, it seemed to me that it was a story of a degenerative illness. It's a tragedy, really, about this transformative disease. And that's how it should be presented, I think. You know, the protagonist of these Wolfman stories is always trying to fight against this curse, whatever it is. So to me, when I thought about that, I thought about the metaphor of disease in our real lives. I mean, this is something that we've all brushed up against. Either we've experienced it ourselves, or one of our family members has had an experience with cancer or Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease. In some way, our bodies can fail us and they become this like monster. And so that seemed to be, to me, to be the way into this movie that hopefully separates it from other Wolfman stories.
Leigh has described it as a grounded take on the werewolf myth, of course. How did that approach influence your performance and the way you interpreted Blake's struggles?
You know, first was the script, of course, and that's the first thing I read. And then, so all of that is in there. And then I met Leigh, and, you know, I'd seen Leigh's movies before, and, you know, obviously, you know, he does his own take on everything he does. And early on, he showed me the designs for how the sort of character of the Wolfman would look, and I thought it was beautiful. You know, I thought it was sort of, it's scary and all that, but it's also very tragic, and you know, it all kind of came together where, okay, there's really something to play here. It's fun to do horror and genre and have all that sort of fantastical stuff, but you always want some heart in it too. And so that's when I decided that like this would be a good one to do.
Werewolf stories often explore these themes of duality and repressed desires. About this, what resonated with you the most in relation to Blake's character and, of course, his fear of hurting the ones he loved the most?
Yeah, well, I think in the movie you get the idea of the themes of, like, first of all, like a generational trauma thing, you know, that is one, and then also for Blake, you know, a lot of it is just the idea of fatherhood and what it means to be a father, and to his daughter. And you know, as Blake, if anything, errs sort of on the side of maybe overprotective, or wanting to not overprotective, but wanting to protect too much, shield the daughter, and then so I don't want to say fun, but the interesting thing that happens is when the transformation starts, and when his ability starts getting taken away from him, how much of that is his human instinct or animal instinct, the idea of protecting the young, and when that gets taken away, and how we protect, when as a parent, how you protect, as a human, and if you're an animal of any kind, what that looks like, and so to sort of play with the range of that, I thought was really cool.
What were your first thoughts when you had your first talk with Leigh and with Chris, of course, about what was going on in the film with the transformation, like watching him physically?
I kind of had an idea, and I saw like a little bit rough pictures, like that what Chris was kind of gonna look like, but then once he walked out of the trailer, it wasn't even like what I saw. Like, it was shocking. It was really scary. And then after 3 days, it was like kind of funny because he was like texting in the wolf costume and like getting a cappuccino in the wolf costume and like asking where his mark is in the wolf costume, had like straws up his nose for the breathing or makeup. I don't know. But then it got kind of funny. But but the first like moment I saw it, I was like, this is terrifying. This is really scary. It was uncomfortable, actually.
Wolfman explores that idea, that terrifying idea, that sometimes the scariest monsters aren't the ones with fangs and with claws, but the darkness and fears within ourselves, like the fear of losing control, and as I was saying, harming the ones we love the most. How did you connect it with that idea in your role as Blake, and what do you hope audiences can take away from that exploration?
The character of Blake throughout a lot of the movie, as the transformation happening, is very much is fighting his own control, and as it progresses, losing his ability to even recognize his family, wife, daughter, and the fear that it's and to sympathize with this sort of monster or creature, the fear of knowing that is leaving you, and how do you handle that? So that was sort of that's sort of how I played with that.
I think sometimes people feel like that things are really bad, but then when actually something really bad happens, they didn't have it so bad before. And it happens all the time to everyone, and I think that will resonate with people a lot. And what I hope is, like, I was saying earlier, for people to tell the person that they love that they love them, and to just remind that person that they love them, even if they're having problems.
I hope that audiences come away reflecting on their own life and their mortality. Like, we only get a short amount of time with people. Christopher Abbott's character actually says that in the movie. We really only get a short time, and we overlap, right? Our parents are alive for a long time before we're born, and then we get this certain window of time with them, and then they're gone. And then we continue, and then we have, and it's this game of overlap that you have, and if you measure it out, you really only have a short amount of time with people. So maybe audiences come away from this with some thought about their own families and their own lives and the short amount of time they're going to have with them.